All right, everybody, welcome back to the deep dive.
It's good to be back.
You know, we all experience failure,
Oh yeah.
but how often do we actually, talk about it?
Yeah,
Or,
enough.
right, or want to unpack it?
Exactly.
So today we're diving deep into this excerpt called The Day I Stopped Running from Failure.
I love that title.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And, the author starts with a scene that just gave me chills.
Okay.
Eviction notice on the door bank account, drained and rejected from a dream job.
Oh wow, that's like the trifecta right there.
The trifecta of failure.
Yeah.
So have you ever felt that kind of overwhelming pressure from failure?
Oh gosh. I mean, I think all of us have at some point,
Yeah.
whether it's in our personal life or professional life or
Right.
just that feeling of like hitting rock bottom.
Yeah.
It can be so isolating, but
It is.
when you read about it or when you hear other people talk about it,
Yeah.
you realize it's a more common experience than we like to think.
Then we realize, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
Good.
what's so interesting, too, is the author talks about the emotional fallout from these events,
Right.
and they don't sugarcoat it at all.
Yeah.
The despair, the self-doubt, that feeling of being completely lost.
Mm-hmm.
And reading that, I was really struck by how much we try to bury those emotions.
Yeah, we try to push them down and pretend they're not there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the author argues that acknowledging them is actually the first step
Right.
to moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where the real growth starts, right?
Yeah.
It's like those emotions are a signal. They're telling us something. Like, hey, pay attention. This is important.
Right.
And sometimes it's just about sitting with that discomfort
Yeah.
and letting yourself feel it.
Yeah.
And that can actually lead to some real insight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the author's perspective really shifts.
Okay.
They realize that their failures, as painful as they were, weren't defining them,
Mm-hmm.
but rather refining them.
Interesting.
So it's like each setback was kind of chipping away at what wasn't working and clearing the path for something new.
I really like that concept, this idea of failure as a refining process.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you think that refining actually works? What's going on there?
Well, the author introduces this failure reframe technique,
Okay.
which is all about asking yourself 3 key questions
All right.
after a setback.
Right.
So the first one is, what did I learn from this experience?
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is crucial because it forces us to shift our focus from blame and self-criticism
Right.
to a more objective analysis of the situation.
I see. Yeah.
It's about finding the lesson in the mess,
Yeah, that makes sense. Instead of
Yeah.
dwelling on oh, I messed up. It's
Right.
okay, what can I learn from this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So by focusing on the learning, we start to see the experience as valuable data rather than just
Right.
a negative event.
Exactly. So what are the other 2 questions?
So the next one is, how can I use this lesson moving forward? So it's not just about identifying the lesson, but also figuring out how to apply that knowledge
Right.
to future situations.
So it's actionable.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then finally, the author asks, what is one positive thing
Okay.
that came out of this situation?
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, so it's all about finding that silver lining,
Mm-hmm.
even in the midst of a really difficult experience.
Yeah. That can be really powerful, just shifting your perspective like that.
Absolutely. So to really cement these lessons, the author suggests creating a failure resume.
What a failure resume.
A failure resume.
Okay, I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, basically it's a record of your setbacks.
Okay.
Not to dwell on them, but to track the lessons you learned
Right.
and how you applied them.
Oh, that's interesting. So you're actually turning your failures into
Like a source of data.
data. Yeah. I like that.
What do you think about that idea?
I think it's brilliant, honestly.
Yeah.
It takes the traditional concept of a resume, which focuses solely on successes. Yeah.
And it completely flips it on its head.
Yeah.
It's saying that the growth that comes from navigating those challenges is just as important.
If not more so.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. We learn so much more from our mistakes
We do.
than from our successes.
Yeah. So it's really about owning your experiences, both the good and the bad.
Exactly.
And then there's this 24-hour rule.
Okay, the 24-hour rule. Tell me more about that.
So give yourself a full day to wallow,
Okay.
to feel all the emotions,
Right.
and then it's time to move on. No more dwelling.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And this is the part I love.
Okay.
They challenge us to intentionally try something we might fail at this week.
Ooh. Now that's interesting. Why do you think they suggest that?
Because, as they put it, failure isn't the opposite of success.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the process.
Yeah.
So it's about pushing ourselves outside our comfort zones and embracing the possibility of setbacks as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. Yeah, it reminds me of the growth mindset concept we talk about a lot on the show.
Exactly.
It's not about avoiding failure. It's about embracing it as a learning experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after diving deep into the day I stopped running from failure, it really makes me wonder, what if we all started viewing failure not as an endpoint,
Right.
but as a crucial stepping stone on the path towards success?
I love that question, and I think that's a great one to leave our listeners with.
Yeah.
So I encourage you to think about that this week, and maybe even try applying the failure reframe technique to a recent setback in your own life.
Yeah, give it a try.
You might be surprised at what you uncover.
Absolutely.
All right, that's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next time.
See ya.
Bye.